Okay, Carl and Heather, thank you again for joining for number 3 here, where we're going to look still at this idea of imitating Jesus. Second video, we looked at suffering. This time we want to look at service, especially out of Mark chapter 9, where Jesus addresses a conversation with his disciples of they're trying to see who is the greatest, which we laugh about this, but it makes you feel a lot better about yourself, because I always think of growing up with 2 older brothers. We probably did this all the time. So I always see the disciples as that, but then Jesus responds with like profound wording around what it is to be an imitator of his, to live in his way. His kingdom is to be a servant to all. And it's beautiful, but it's challenging, right? So I guess my first question is just, where have you experienced the church being servants? Like, how have you seen this, whether it is somebody individually or it's, the church body altogether? Where have you guys seen this? Heather?
Well, first, I think it's important that we've already discussed the topic of sacrifice, because I think sacrifice plays into servanthood. Serving someone else means I'm giving up something to serve this person, because this is what God has asked me to do. And in a very practical way, one of the ways that I see the church doing this is coming into church every Sunday, and there are people here who will offer to take good care of my kids. There's someone here who is leading worship. There's someone here who's preaching. There's someone here serving coffee. Like giving up their own time, their own efforts to serve people who are coming. And I think like that's just such a beautiful representation of what God has asked us to do. Like, who actually wants to be around like loads of snotty kids coughing all over you, but they do it because they're serving. And it's such a beautiful model. And currently where I'm at in my life, sometimes I just need someone on a Sunday to watch my kid for an hour, get some time to worship. And it's such a blessing.
I have seen Sonny running around. He puts people to the test.
Yeah. Well, that's extra service whenever Sonny's in the crash.
No, that is such a good example of service. Like, if you just think of like the church on a Sunday and the different volunteer roles that people have and people do, like, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Do you like that? It kind of captures the sense of like the church being servants, right? Like, if you're coming to church, you're part of the body. You're part of mucking in and getting involved and doing this, which you wouldn't be able to enter into a service, or you wouldn't be able to have worship or preaching or all these different elements if it weren't for people who are saying like, I'm following Jesus into this. I want to serve him, which I think is so good. So I think that's a great example. Where would you go with it?
Yeah, I think for me, where I love seeing people serving is it's kind of in the subtle behind the scenes stuff that's not necessarily, it's not seen. Like, so, where I see it is, people who are sick, and you're chatting to them about how they're doing, and all of a sudden they're just listing off all these different people who visited or dropped food around. It's not anything that's been like organized, so to speak, but it's just these people are serving and loving people, and it's not out of a sense of like duty or obligation. It's because they genuinely love people. So I guess I love seeing that. Another example of that. Recently, just at a funeral, not very many people at the funeral, because the person didn't really have a very wide network of relationships. But as you look around, the people who are present, followers of Jesus, have come alongside these people, have loved them, taken them in as family, and in the moment of kind of despair, this family who don't know Jesus, what they do in that moment is they go to people who are following him because they see something beautiful in him. They see something attractive in Jesus, and in his followers they see hope. And it's it's in those little moments where, these people find themselves in such a dark moment of their lives that you just see church serving. And not necessarily just serving church family, but serving people outside the walls of church, which I think is so important too. Like, it's obviously so important that we have people serving within church to, allow everything that we do to happen. But if we just restrict it to, this is our little club and we need to make sure that we all look after each other, I don't think that that's what Jesus is inviting us to. I think he invites us to this sacrificial love of everyone, not just of, our brothers and sisters.
I think that's so true. So it's in-house and out.
Yeah.
In the church and outside of the church being servants. It's tough. Like it's really easy to become self-centered and just take care of your own needs. Can I just name that? Please make me feel better, and that you too struggle with that too.
With you.
But it's really easy for that to happen. We live in a self-focused world, culture. What have you found helpful in keeping your eyes outward and being servants as you imitate Jesus and follow him? What have you guys, as you live in that, what's been helpful?
I guess for me, it's seeing other people who do it really well and just trying to spend time with them, because when we rub shoulders with them, some of what they have kind of rubs off on you.
That's great.
So, I look around, at different people, and I just think, flip, they love people in a way that I don't right now. But what I see in them, I know that's what Jesus wants. So because that's what Jesus wants, I want to look like them.
Really
so
good.
it's nearly like that. When Paul says, follow after me as I follow after Christ, it's that, it's exactly the same thing. You see people who are doing this really well, and I'm like, okay,
if you're doing it, I can do it.
and I want to learn from you about how to do that as well, because if I'm trying to figure it out by myself, it's tough. You get stuck and you get busy, and there's 101 things that kind of try to get in the way of you living in that way. So I guess like getting alongside people who do it really well and learning from them is big.
Yeah, just as you're saying that, I'm just thinking of my husband, who in general serves so much better than I do. He makes 90% of our meals. He's the one who cleans the house. He's the one who does all the financial stuff. And I thought I was type A before meeting him. He's type A plus plus plus. But the way that he is able to, so he's an A&E doctor. And so he's just always, he has this way of making people feel comfortable in really hard situations, or serving them in their moment of need. And even with his friends, the people he's really close to, most of the time, he's the one going out and being like, look, let's meet up on a monthly basis. Look, let's keep this up. Look, I want to serve you. I want to help. And so I think what you were saying, the people who you see doing a really good job, most of my life, I just feel like I'm just failing at this, because Johnny's just so good at all this, but it does make me, it makes me want to do what he's doing. He models it in such a way. It's and he gives me examples. And I think that's really helpful as well. Because sometimes, because we're in a society where it is so much about self and how's my family doing? What's going on? To see someone else doing something and you're just oh, that inspires me to do the same thing in my context, in my life.
Speaking into your context, we were chatting before, you and Johnny have decided to go off social media and just be even present with your family. I think that's a great idea, because when you've got young kids, you're constantly serving. Yeah. Right?
But that's another thing. I'm only off it because Johnny said it's what's wrong with society. And so after 2 years of hearing Johnny say, oh, this is what's wrong with the world, finally I gave it up, and I was like, I feel so much better. Johnny was right again.
That's too good.
But it does it frees up my mental capacity to be with, I'm in a season where I feel like God has just called me to focus on building family, to build family in the future, whatever that means. But I am focused on building my sons and spending time with them, and getting the word of God into them first thing in the morning. And I think having that mental space, even without social media pressures, and I did enjoy it. There's Johnny would say there's everything wrong with social media, but you know, it can be used for good things.
Yeah.
But I think for us personally, it's just been such a help.
Well, it is, you know, I see if you're going to serve, you've got to be present. And one of the biggest distractions is what we hold in our hands, right? It's just the constant media world, news, whatever it is. I was just listening the other day, your average screen time is around 6 to 8 hours a day. And I joked before, but if, you know, Jesus is in the room with his disciples and he's attentive enough to see that feet need washed. If we're going to be servants, we need to be attentive. You know, you're looking to be the best mum you possibly can be. So it's being attentive to the needs of your boys, right? It's the same as you in your place of work. You're looking to be attentive to the needs of people. That's the call for all of us, right? Is to try and presence ourselves. Whatever you've got to do to be present, whatever you've got to do to try and clear out the way so you can just see what's in front of you and just say, Lord, show me what the needs are here. That's being a servant, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
You were going to say something.
I was going to say, wasn't it you and Lou who decided to get a landline in your house because you're giving up your phone for like a Saturday? And I was like, you know what? We should bring landlines back. Because that's one of my biggest fears. That's a tangent. But like, what if someone needs something? Get a landline.
That's it. And that's been huge for us is we toss our phones on a Saturday just to try and be present, get a space to say, how can I serve you today as, you know, as Lou serves me. But that's really helpful. What then, you know, how do you become a servant to all, right? Like we've talked about some of the barriers. What have you found sort of helpful in that, right? So you're rubbing shoulders with somebody else. You know, what else? How can we be better servants, right? As we walk with Jesus, so it doesn't become just like a legalistic go and do loads of good stuff like we've talked about, but like how can we be better servants of where we are?
I think it probably feels like we're coming back to the same thing over and over again, but like intimacy with the Lord and relationship with him, as we kind of, you know, it's that capturing his heart. It makes you, whenever we do that, it causes us to live in a way that's different. Because we would never, you know, it causes us to choose things that we would never choose. Causes us to love people who we would never love. And it's not that we just do it because as we walk kind of more in step with him, it's that sense of like obedience. But then I think like as we learn how to do that, it does become a little bit easier. Like, so as we kind of lay stuff aside and as we choose to serve, all of a sudden you see that the thing that felt like it was going to cost me loads actually ended up being something that the Lord used to like bring me joy and bring that kind of life to the full that he talked about.
I mean, that's the whole series in a sense, isn't it? Is staying close with Jesus, and as you do that, you will start to walk out and see. I just think of people in the workplace. You work in an office, right? It's like it's walking with Jesus throughout your day to say what are the needs in front of me, and how can I serve people? That's how we're showing up. Yeah, you can only do that by being close to him. Yeah, so good.
I love that. Like just going off of what you're saying, just like as you spend time with him, it allows him to do what he needs to do in you in terms of renewing your mind. So in our world, you know, I want to be served. I want people to serve me. I want this. And even to the extent of like, I deserve this. Like I'm entitled to this, and we get upset. But Jesus said, like, you know, I didn't come into the world to be served. I came to serve. Yeah. And it's when you spend time with him, he begins to shift your perspective. Yeah. So when I go into a day thinking it's not about me today. How am I going to serve? Oh, Sonny's pooped. Guess I'm wiping another bum. You know, like, well, that's a very basic thing. But you know, like it gives you totally. Like this, like joy or purpose that is actually really liberating. Because if I'm waiting all day for someone to serve me, I mean, Johnny does make my dinner, so I've always got something to look forward to. But you know what I'm saying? Like it's enjoyable. Like it makes service a joy if I know like yeah, I don't know. There's just something about like Jesus's ways that there's always a joy, whereas the rest of the world might hear like service. No, it's too hard
Sounds
for me,
tiring.
not for me.
Sounds
But there's
tiring, yeah.
always that, like I just feel like I look at Jesus's life and he was filled with joy washing people's feet. He was filled with joy healing people. He was filled with joy. And obviously it says that he got tired. He was weary. He fell asleep but like he was joyful.
Yeah. I think that's the counterintuitiveness of following Jesus is like, wait, suffering, sacrifice, service. It's like, wait, what? And yet my heart is alive. Like I feel like I'm living out the imageness of God as I do that. So good.
And even the service part, that piece of our society is just missing in a way that it wasn't a few years ago. You talk to people who, organizations who rely on volunteers, like they're struggling big time to get people to serve. And I do think that this is maybe a way that the church can step up and show the love of Jesus, that, it's not a normal thing for people to do. So the normal thing for people to do now is to, you go to your job, you come home, you watch Netflix, you scroll on Instagram or whatever, and you go to bed and you wake up and do the same thing again. But actually, if as the church we can be people who all of a sudden are just living in a way that makes people go, why on earth do you do that?
And why are you so filled with joy
Yeah.
as you do it? Yeah.
It just shows, again, the attractiveness of Jesus and makes people go, whatever you have, I want it.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for leading us through service. We got one more video to go that we'll come to next, but thanks for that.